Tammy Kolda, an applied mathematician, and this is Unlocking LaTeX Graphics. On this channel, I present tutorials on using TikZ and PGF plots. The videos on this channel are based on my book, Unlocking LaTeX Graphics, as well as some bonus materials. I'm excited that this is the 2 to the 6th episode, so I've prepared a special episode with 6 hidden tricks in TikZ. We'll cover angle anchors, labels on nodes, positioning nodes on paths, corner coordinates, shifting paths, and base anchors. Each trick has its own document so you can follow along with any one of them independently. Let's get started. Before we dive in, let me walk through the common setup I'm using across all of the examples. As always, I use parskip to avoid paragraph indentation and hyperref to link the title to this YouTube channel. The main package is TikZ. We aren't using any TikZ libraries for today's examples. So that the help lines are not too dark on the video, I'm appending the built-in style to use a lighter shade of gray in this TikZ set line. Now let's get to the tricks. Let's talk about a TikZ secret, angle anchors for nodes. These technically work with any node, but they are most useful with circle nodes, and that's what we'll talk about today. Thanks to watcher Dario Drigo 3778 for asking about this in a comment on episode 41. You probably know the compass node anchors like north, northeast, east, southeast, and so on. If you don't, check out my other videos on that topic, which I'll link in the show notes. There's another type of anchor called an angle anchor. Here I have a TikZ picture with a grid and a big blue circle node labeled A. The node is centered at position 2, 2 and has a minimum size of 4 centimeters. I'm using a style I've defined called object to make the node a circle and define other characteristics such as its fill and text style. Check out my other videos on styles, which I'll link in the show notes. Now here's the cool thing. I can reference A.15 to get the point on A's boundary at 15 degrees. Any integer angle is valid, including negative values. 0 degrees is east, and angles go counterclockwise so that northeast is 45 degrees, north is 90 degrees, and so on. So at the point A.15, I put a text node to the right to label it as 15 degrees, as we see here. One nifty use of angle anchors is to draw a chord between 2 points on a circle. Let me connect 15 degrees to 105 degrees here. Now we have a chord between the 15 degree point and the 105 degree point on the circle. So far, I've been using angle anchors as reference points on an existing circle node. However, you can also use an angle with the node anchor option. The anchor key tells TikZ which reference point on the node to use to place at the target location. Normally, it's the center of the node that's used, but we can use anything, including the compass anchors and including the angle anchors. Let me give you an example. Here I'm drawing a new circle labeled B, and I'm placing it at the point A.45. Its anchor is set to 225. That is exactly the opposite of 45 on the circle. It's 180 plus 45. This is great for building diagrams where you need nodes to connect at precise angles. My choice of angles here ensures that the circles are tangent and won't overlap. So any integer can be a node anchor, not just compass direction names. You can use these angles for precise positioning. I'm going to show you how to use the node label key to add a label to a node without explicitly creating another node. Here's a simple setup. I define a style named marker that creates a small filled circle. I draw a 4x4 grid, and then I place a red marker node at 1, 1 and a blue marker node at position 3, 3. Now let's suppose I want to label these points A and B. The most straightforward way to do that is with separate node commands that place the labels above the dots that I've just drawn as nodes. So I'll paste that and compile that now. That has the desired effect, but it's a bit verbose. Another way that I can do this is via something called the label key on the node. This is a shortcut to creating these types of nodes. Let me get rid of the separate text nodes and modify the way that I create the original nodes. What's changed here is that I've added label equals A to the red node and label equals B to the blue node. The label key creates a new node above the current node with your desired text. You won't see any change here because it's doing exactly what those two separate lines did before. You can control the style of these labels via the every label style. Let me change these labels to be large, bold, and drawn with a box. Now we've changed the style of those labels. By default, the label goes above the node. Most of the time, this will be fine. If you want to change this, you can actually put a position before the text label separated by a colon. So for example, here I can type below colon, and now the node will move below the red dot. Angle numbers are also allowed, so I could also put 45 colon in front of the B label to move it to the 45-degree point on the node. So I don't have to always add label equal to every node. I can fold the label key into the marker style itself. So I already had this style I created called marker. I'm going to add label equals curly braces #1. Then I'm going to change these two lines to just directly say marker equals below A and marker equals 45B. And again, nothing has changed because I did the same thing, but with less text. Now, when I create a marker and give it an argument in brackets, that argument becomes the label text. This keeps the code clean and concise. So now you know how to use the label key to attach labels directly to nodes and fold it into a style for even cleaner code. Here's a quick TikZ trick. You can place nodes at specific positions along a path, even a curved one, and not just at the midpoint. I have here a TikZ picture drawing a straight line from the point 1, 1 to the point 5, 3. I've placed marker nodes at the start and end, and these marker nodes draw a filled circle and add a label. TikZ has a built-in midway shorthand that places a node at the 50% point of a path segment if you put a node after the line 2 operator given by the dash dash and before the final coordinate. So let me paste a node right here, and I'm using that marker to say that it's midway. So there's our dot right at the middle of the line, and I haven't actually specified a specific position, but where I put the node command tells it that it should be midway. If you want something other than the middle, the pause, P-O-S key, lets you specify a fraction. So I'll replace this with a node at 25%. So I say pause equals 0.25. You can stack as many position nodes as you like on one path segment. So let me add another one at position 66%. You're not actually constrained to using values between 0 and 1 for the pause key. I can, for example, add a position at minus 0.1, and that'll go 10% before the start of the line. Here's the really nice part. The pause key works on curved paths too. When I change the straight line to be a 2 bend right curve, the nodes follow the arc. I'll link to my episode about bent curves in the show notes. I use the pause key all the time in my diagrams to place the labels and markers along a path, curved or straight, and it's a huge time saver. I'll also note that you don't actually have to draw the path, and so that can be a good way to find the middle between 2 points. Here's a TikZ trick that I wish I had known sooner. Have you ever wanted to align a new point horizontally with one coordinate and vertically with another? The bar dash and dash bar operators were designed exactly for that. I have here a grid, and I've already put 2 points on there, an A at 0, 2 and a B at 3, 0. First, let's create a point that pulls the X value from A and the Y value from B. That is accomplished via the bar dash operator. So A bar dash B gives us A's X value and B's Y value. Think of it as going vertically down from A to B's Y level, a vertical bar, and then a horizontal turn. We see that the new point in orange is at the bottom left corner of the rectangle defined by A and B. Next, let's create the other corner. This one pulls the X value from B and the Y value from A. So one thing we could do is just swap B and A in this command, and that would work. But we can alternatively keep A and B in the same order, but switch the operator to be dash bar. That means first you move horizontally and then vertically. We have a new point in orange at the top right corner of the rectangle defined by A and B at opposite corners. Together, bar dash and dash bar give you the corners of the rectangle defined by any 2 points. This is incredibly useful for alignment. Here's a TikZ trick. I'll show you how to shift paths and coordinates and a gotcha with name coordinates that trips everyone up. I've already set up a grid and drawn a red triangle with vertices A, B, and C. The vertices are stored as named coordinates so that I can refer to them later. And I've labeled them with text nodes so that you know which is which. There are 3 shift commands, which are xshift, yshift, and just shift. The first 2 shift in just one direction and they require units like millimeters. The third shifts by a coordinate and can be unitless. Let's try it out. If I put xshift equals 10 millimeters as an option on the draw command, the entire triangle shifts to the right by 10 millimeters when I compile. Let's watch. And there you go, it moved. If I add yshift equals 5 millimeters, the triangle shifts up by 5 millimeters. Alternatively, I can use the shift key with a coordinate pair. So let me get rid of these and instead type shift equals 0.5 comma 1 and compile that. I didn't have to put units here. Since the default TikZ unit is 1 centimeter, the triangle shifted up by 10 millimeters and right by 5 millimeters. Note the extra curly braces around this coordinate. That's because it has a comma. And if I use that coordinate without the curly braces around it, the comma will screw up TikZ's parsing. The coordinates A, B, and C are moving along with the path because they're defined on the shifted path. Now let's add some measurements line. I want to show the width of the triangle using a line from the top left corner to the top right corner, shifted up a bit for clarity. So here I have yshift equals 3 millimeters. I'm starting at A bar dash B, which is this point here, and I'm going to B, and I'm putting a node midway with the width. Only it didn't shift, and that's the gotcha with named coordinates. That's because named coordinates like A, B, C, and their combinations are fixed points, and so they're resolved to their absolute positions no matter how the path is shifted. If I want to shift a named coordinate, I have to put the shift inside the parentheses themselves. So let me take yshift equals 3 millimeters out of the path, and I'll put it into the coordinates. I put it inside the parentheses. I still have brackets around it. So I'll do that for the first coordinate and the second coordinate. Now, when I compile, everything has moved. We can use the same idea to mark the height with a vertical line from A to A bar dash B, x shifting by -7 millimeters. Again, the shift goes inside the coordinate parentheses surrounded by square brackets. So remember, shift, xshift, and yshift work on explicit coordinates in draw commands. But for named coordinates, you have to put the shift inside the parentheses with square brackets before the coordinate name. Here's a TikZ trick for aligning text labels across nodes. It's called the base anchor. TikZ defines 3 base anchors for nodes, which are base west, and base east. These anchors align vertically with the baseline of the text. To demonstrate this, I have a setup with 2 shapes, a cyan circle and an orange square. Above each one, I've placed a text label using anchors equals south and a small yshift to move the labels up just a bit from the tops of the shapes. Look carefully at the labels. They're slightly misaligned. Square sits higher than circle. Can you see it? Let me add a horizontal red line through the baseline of the text circle to make this obvious. So I'm going to draw from ctext.base west, and I'll just draw 5 centimeters to the right. And you can see that that is right at the baseline of circle, but square has been scooted up. That's because it has a Q that protrudes down. One hack is to add a vertical phantom Q to the circle label, as I show here. Now both labels have the same depth, so they align. But this is fragile. You'd have to add phantoms everywhere, and if your text changes, you might need different phantom characters. Similarly, you could play with the yshift values to try and line things up, but that's also a hack and not robust to text changes. So let's get rid of that and try to see if we can find a more robust way. It's better instead to use the base anchor for alignment. I just changed the line for the square. I'm using bar-syntax to create a point that horizontally aligns with the center of the square and vertically aligns with the baseline of the C text node. I then anchor the square text to that point using anchor equals base. When I compile this, now the baselines are perfectly aligned, and it is insensitive to text that goes below the baseline or sticks up extra high like a exponent might do. So the base anchor is a great way to align text across nodes. I hope you enjoyed these TikZ tricks. Let me do a quick recap. We saw how angles can be used to reference points on a circle node's boundary by degree. We use the node label key to attach text labels above nodes, and this also works with coordinates. We saw how the pause path key can be used to place nodes at specific positions along a path, even a curved path. We learned the bar, dash, and dash bar operators for combining the x and y values from two coordinates. We shifted paths and coordinates and learned that named coordinates need the shift inside the parentheses. And we use the base anchor to align text labels by their typographic baseline. I include a link to the Overleaf documents I created today in the show notes. If you found this helpful or interesting, please click like or subscribe. If you have TikZ or PGF plots questions, please post them in the comments. If you want to learn more, please check out the 63 other videos. I also have a book, Unlocking LaTeX Graphics, available for purchase at major book retailers. Thanks for watching.